I have been married to my husband for 6 years. We have 2 kids together, an 8-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy. Our youngest is special needs. My husband also has a daughter who is 12 years old from his previous relationship. His ex has had primary custody. My husband gets his daughter on weekends and alternating holidays, birthdays. This past weekend, my stepdaughter asked my husband if she can come live with him full-time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, and there has been some friction with that. Nothing bad, just adjusting to a new house, new rules, and having to share a bedroom, etc. My husband didn't give her an answer either way. He said he would look into it. When he and I were discussing it, I had the following objections. My stepdaughter and our kids do not get along. It is something we have been working on for years, in and out of therapy, and it's just not improving. My stepdaughter resents my kids for existing and is cruel towards my youngest because of his disabilities. There have been issues with her bullying. My oldest son is very protective of his little brother and hates my stepdaughter for being mean to him. He has even started physical fights with her because of it. In order to avoid conflicts, most of the time we have my stepdaughter, I make arrangements for my boys to visit their grandparents, or my husband takes her out of the house for father-daughter time. I can't imagine how living together full-time would be for them. We don't really have enough space. We have a 4-bedroom home. Both my husband and I work from home so that we can take care of my youngest. Due to the nature of his disabilities, it is not possible for him and my oldest to share a room. It wouldn't be safe or fair to my oldest. My stepdaughter's room is used as my office space during the week. I plan my vacation time around her visitation so that I can stay out of her space while she is here. I have to take very sensitive phone calls, and I need a closed door when I work, so common areas are not an option. My husband uses our bedroom as his home office, so that's also not possible. At the moment, we don't have the budget to make any additions to the house or remodel non-livable spaces. My husband hears my objections and understands them, but he wants to go for it and believes that everything will eventually work out. He doesn't want his daughter to feel like he is abandoning her. I sympathize with my stepdaughter because it would be devastating for your dad to say no when you ask to live with him. However, I also have to think about my own kids, and I don't believe that her living here is in their best interest, considering their history and our living arrangements. Does saying no to this make me an evil stepmom? Edit. For those who think I am a homewrecker and an evil stepmom, sorry to disappoint you, but we did not have an affair. My husband and my stepdaughter's mom were never married or in a relationship. They were friends with benefits. They used to work together as bartenders and would sometimes hook up when they were drunk. My husband claims he needed beer goggles because she's not his type. When my stepdaughter's mom found out she was pregnant, she told my husband she was keeping the baby and asked if he wanted to be involved. They never lived together, except for a few weeks during the newborn stage when he helped out. Yes, I had my first child before I married my husband. My husband and I were in a long-term relationship when I got pregnant due to a birth control malfunction. We both decided that we wanted to raise the child. A few days later, my husband proposed. We didn't get married until my oldest son was 2 years old. Edit 2. Regarding my youngest son's disabilities, my stepdaughter's bullying, and my oldest son starting fights, there is a lot of speculation and projection going on. My youngest son has both physical and mental disabilities. He requires multiple types of medical and therapy equipment. My stepdaughter has physically harmed him. She has pushed him out of his wheelchair. She has pinched him hard enough to leave bruises. She has hit him in the face when he was having trouble communicating. I don't care if this is considered normal sibling behavior. It is alarming to me, and I believe it's best for my youngest son to have as little contact with her as possible until her behavior stops completely, which I will say has improved somewhat. It used to happen frequently, but now it's less frequent. The last incident was 2 months ago when my stepdaughter aggressively pushed my son's wheelchair out of her way because he was blocking the hallway. One of the times that my son started a fight with her was because she told my son that his brother was not a real person and that she was going to call the hospital to have him taken away for experiments. She described in detail what they would do to him, like ripping out his fingernails. Yes, my son lost his temper and hit her. He was immediately disciplined, lost tablet time, and we had an age-appropriate discussion about how his intent to protect his little brother is good, but he needs to find an adult when something like that happens. This was not made up. My stepdaughter admitted saying it to my husband when he talked to her later in the day. I am not allowed to discipline or have parenting talks with my stepdaughter per her mom's wishes. I am not involved in my stepdaughter's therapy journey because her mom doesn't want me to be. My husband has always been afraid of upsetting her mom, so I don't know the extent of her treatment. I know she goes to therapy during the week, and my husband attends the sessions, but it's not something he can discuss with me. So, I am in the dark about that. Edit 3. There's someone in the comments claiming to be my sister-in-law. They are either trolling or mistaken. My husband is an only child, so I don't have a sister-in-law. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would go a middle route. Sit SD down and explain to her that the way she treats your kids has been unacceptable for a long time, and you refuse to let her live there if she's going to keep bullying and hurting them. Tell her if she can change her behavior and treat her step-siblings with respect and kindness, you'll be willing to revisit the subject after she stays consistent for a year. I think that if you and your husband make it clear that her behavior towards the other kids is a problem, she won't feel abandoned. She also might just suck it up and deal at her mom's, but she needs to understand that her treatment of your kids is going to continue to be a problem if she doesn't choose to change. Comment 2. So this poor child has 4 adults in her life and none wants her. She doesn't even have her own room in your house, so why on earth would she not resent you all? Honestly, to goodness, this really angers me when people like you have the audacity to treat an innocent child this way, and then sit with a Pikachu face saying, I don't know why she's mean. So you realize anger is a masking emotion for hurt? Maybe if you tuned into this girl and stopped separating her from her family, she would actually be happy. Why don't you treat your own children the way you treat her and see how they react? Disgusting. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around. Well, things have escalated quickly. Out of the blue, my husband's ex decided she's moving across the country with her new fiancé. She dropped this news on us last Tuesday, and it's been chaos since. She's leaving in a month, and now my stepdaughter has no choice but to live with us full-time. My husband didn't even get a say. It was like the decision was made for him. He's trying to act like it's all going to be okay, but I can see the worry in his eyes. I'm resentful, to be honest. It feels like my stepdaughter's mom is dumping her responsibilities on us without considering the impact on our family. And my husband, bless him, he's too kind-hearted to see the mess this is going to create. He's convinced that love will fix everything, but I'm not so sure. The first thing we did was convert my office into my stepdaughter's bedroom. I've been relegated to the kitchen table, which is far from ideal. I'm on edge all the time, worried that a confidential call will be overheard by the kids. It's not sustainable, but my husband insists it's only temporary until we figure something else out. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my oldest son started acting out at school. He's been getting into fights, and when I finally got him to talk, he admitted he's angry about his sister moving in. He's scared for his little brother and feels like his home isn't safe anymore. I've never felt so torn in my life. My stepdaughter moved in last weekend, and it's been a disaster. The kids are constantly at each other's throats. She's been provoking my oldest, and he's been retaliating. I'm playing referee nonstop, and it's exhausting. My youngest is stressed out by all the fighting, and it's affecting his health. In a moment of desperation, I suggested to my husband that maybe my stepdaughter could stay with her grandparents for a while, just until we get a handle on things. He looked at me like I had suggested abandoning her on the side of the road. He said no, that we have to make this work. I feel like I'm the only one seeing this for the disaster it is. And then, as if we needed more on our plate, my husband's work announced they're downsizing. He's worried about his job now, and I can tell he's scared. We can't afford to lose his income, not with everything else that's going on. I'm trying to pick up more hours, but it's tough with the kids and no private space to work. Yesterday, my stepdaughter asked if her mom could take her back. She's unhappy here, and I can't blame her. But her mom said no, that this is her new life now. My husband tried to comfort her, but she's not having any of it. She's closed off from us, and I'm worried about what this is doing to her. I made a choice yesterday. I told my husband we should consider family therapy, all of us together. I thought it might help, but he said we can't afford it with the job situation. So, I reached out to my stepdaughter's mom, behind his back. to ask if she would help pay for it. She agreed, but now I'm keeping secrets from my husband, and it feels wrong. I'm trying to hold everything together, but it feels like it's all slipping through my fingers. I'm worried about my kids, my marriage, and now I'm lying to my husband. I thought I was doing the right thing, but what if I'm not? What if this just makes everything worse? Thanks for reading. My husband kicks me out after his mom attacks me, but when he tries to win me back with signed divorce papers, I take control and dictate the terms of our new life together. I'm still grieving the loss of my marriage, but my friend notified me about my husband's post that had too many specific details that were hard to ignore. To clarify, this is my first time on Reddit. I read my soon-to-be ex-husband's post and wanted to give my side of the story and include details that he didn't provide in his post. For those who haven't read it, the long story short, my husband kicked me out of the house after his mother physically slapped my stomach in front of him, and I punched her in self-defense. I loved my husband dearly, but his lack of action regarding his mother's behavior was extremely disgusting, to say the least. I tolerated his mom's behavior long enough until I couldn't take it anymore. He had overlooked his mom's behavior over and over again, and finally, I had enough. I was still recovering after giving birth to his child when his mom slapped my stomach, and my husband exaggerated when he said it wasn't a hard slap. The slap itself was hard enough to be heard by everyone in the room. I had lost it at this point when his mother slapped my stomach with a turd-eating smirk that wasn't visible from my husband's point of view. At least that's what my husband claimed. I had a mental breakdown when my husband told me to leave after kicking everyone out of the house. You should have seen his face when he told me to get out with a straight face and without hesitation. Our baby was crying at this point before I left, and I couldn't do anything but cry that night after I went to stay with my mother. His mother sent me a text mockingly saying, "I am going to file charges against you for attack, you fat little intimacy worker. Now stay the frick out of our lives." She ended the text with a smiley face. I was livid and decided I did not want to be associated with this family anymore, and served my husband divorce papers. And as you can guess, he didn't take it well, and tried to get me to reconsider. I told him that he overlooked his mother's behavior one too many times, and I was done with him and his inability to establish boundaries with his mother. I recommended setting boundaries, but he didn't think it was necessary. Even after I told him throughout the pregnancy about the nasty names his mother called me when he wasn't around, he always brushed it off. He did tell his mom to stop, but she would continue this behavior after a short pause. Before I left after handing him divorce papers, he begged me for another chance and told me he cut contact with his mother permanently. I told him that he is sorry now that I handed him divorce papers and that he was too late to act, now that I decided I wanted out of the marriage. I told him I loved him so much that he should look at it as a sign that if I didn't, then I would have divorced him long ago because he didn't stand up for me multiple times. And I let his mother's snarky comments and behavior slide at my mental expense. I told him he needed help with the trauma because I understand that he is dealing with trauma since he already mentioned my hurtful stepdad, but he didn't even realize that his mother hadn't gotten him help for his trauma, and he is still affected in his adulthood. What I can't understand is why he didn't leave if he needed some space instead of being such a heartless bastard and kicking our child out with me. I've been ignoring his texts and calls ever since, and I'm waiting for a divorce hearing. Something that I wanted to point out is that his mother had contributed to his niece's weight gain since she lives with my husband's sister to save money. I once again told my husband about his niece's weight gain and that it's concerning that she weighs 190 pounds at such a young age. She was indeed not that weight before. On the day of the incident, I was making the niece's second portion of food, and then my husband's mother came towards me and snatched the plate out of my hands and said, "I'll do it myself. Let me take care of it." And when I tried to take the plate back, his mother said, "I know what to freaking do. You don't know how to properly feed someone as healthy as my grandchild." I was shocked that she thinks that her grandchild's weight was normal for her age. I couldn't take this harassment or abuse any longer, and my breaking point was reached when he kicked me and our child out of the house. Now I need to do what's right for our child because she doesn't need to be in a toxic household where she has to witness the drama going on. My soon-to-be ex-husband wants us to do marriage counseling, which I have refused to do because I am done with him. I'm starting to feel slightly guilty with his begging and gaslighting. I just want to be done with him. I've blocked him as recommended by my lawyer, but he keeps reaching out through his other family members and siblings. What should I do to make him go away until the divorce hearing? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm so sorry you've been going through such a rough time. I was furious for you when I read your husband's post. I think punching your mother-in-law was an automatic response to being struck first, and most of us would have done the same thing. The original post, for those who haven't read it, is at comment 2. I read your husband's original post, and he was very clearly the AH. Your post only confirms this. As far as your question about getting him to leave you alone until the hearing, ask your divorce attorney if they can send him, his family members, a cease and desist letter, or send it to his divorce attorney. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, a lot has happened since I last posted. My friend, who's been my rock through all this, called me up 2 weeks ago, shaking with news that could change everything. She'd heard through the grapevine that my husband was planning a move that could either win me back or push me further away. He was going to sell his mother's house, the one she'd lived in for decades, to prove he was serious about cutting ties and making amends. I didn't know what to make of it. Meanwhile, I was juggling work, taking care of our baby, and dealing with the legal side of our separation. It was exhausting. I kept thinking about my husband's niece, too. The poor girl was caught in the middle of her own health crisis, and here I was, unable to help because of the mess with my mother-in-law. Then, out of nowhere, my husband showed up at my work. He had this look of desperation, saying he'd done it. He'd put the house on the market. I was floored. That house was his mother's world, and selling it was a huge step. But was it enough? I told him I needed time to think, and he left, looking more defeated than ever. Back at home, my mom was a saint, helping with the baby and giving me space to breathe, but the pressure was mounting. My husband's family was bombarding me with messages, some begging me to reconsider, others hurling insults. It was relentless. Then came the day of the big risk. My husband called, his voice trembling, saying his mother had found out about the house and was threatening to disown him. He was at a crossroads, and he chose me and our child over her. It was a move that could have left him with nothing if I didn't take him back. I agreed to meet him, just to talk. We sat in a quiet corner of a park, away from prying eyes. He told me about his childhood, the things he'd never shared before. How his mother had controlled every aspect of his life, how he'd been too scared to stand up to her. It was the first time I'd seen him so vulnerable. I didn't say much. I listened, watching him lay bare all his regrets and promises. He said he was getting therapy, that he wanted to be better for us, and then he did something I never expected. He handed me an envelope. Inside were the divorce papers, signed. He was letting me decide our future. No strings attached. I spent the next few days in a haze, weighing my options. My friend said I should take this chance, that people can change. But could I trust him again? Could I put our child in a situation where history might just repeat itself? The turning point came unexpectedly. My husband's niece reached out to me. She was crying, saying she missed me and that she'd started seeing a nutritionist. She wanted to get healthy for herself. It hit me then. This wasn't just about me and my husband. It was about breaking a cycle, about being there for that little girl who needed someone to believe in her. So I made a decision. I called my husband and told him I was willing to try, but on one condition. We'd start fresh, new house, new rules and therapy, together and individually. He agreed without hesitation. It's been a week since that call. We're taking it slow, one day at a time. The house sold, and my husband's mother, well, she's out of our lives, for good. It's not going to be easy, but there's a sense of hope I haven't felt in a long time. Thanks for reading. My wife chose her dog over our daughter's safety. So I shot the dog, and now she's in the hospital. I'm filing for divorce and full custody. Apologies for the throwaway, but the title says it all. Don't get me wrong, I love the dog, but I made a choice between my daughter and the dog, and obviously I chose my daughter. But everyone is pissed at me. It is at the point where my wife has been staying with her parents the last week and not talking to me. The same with the rest of the family, my side included. 2 weeks ago, I came home from work and my 6-year-old daughter came running out of the house to greet me, like she does every day. My wife had a 4-year-old mixed breed that came running up behind my daughter, grabbed her on the leg, dragged her to the ground, and basically started to maul her. This was not playing at all. He was attacking my daughter. I grabbed the dog off of my crying and screaming daughter and threw him to the side. He again started snarling and barking at my daughter, ready to attack her again. I pulled out my pistol, grabbed my daughter's head, pushed it into my chest, and fired 2 shots, ending the life of the dog. My daughter is fine at the moment and was cleared as we did call an ambulance and she was taken to the hospital. Bite mark on the calf, shoulder, and neck that pierced the skin and a bunch of scratches. Luckily, nothing vital was hit, so she will physically make a full recovery. Therapy will be ongoing. It started this week to help with what happened and that she is now deathly afraid of dogs. I don't blame her at all. My wife, on the other hand, after our daughter was cleared from the hospital, was cold to me. When I asked her what was wrong, she went off on me for shooting the dog. She asked, how can I take away something that she loved? I may be the a-hole for my response because I said I didn't care that the animal attacked our daughter and I will shoot it again if I had to. She didn't speak to me for almost a week after the incident until she told me she will be staying with her parents for a while. She told mutual friends, her family, and mine that I shot her dog, and they are calling me some very nice things, including unaliver, animal aggressor. She hasn't lied about why I shot the dog, and I have also confirmed the reason as to why, but I'm still the bad guy. I should have known my daughter would be okay. The dog might just have been playing and got a bit too rough. I had no right to shoot a family pet. My point is and remains the same. I saw a dog attacking my daughter. I got him off of her, and he came back to attack her again. I protected my daughter and will do it again. This didn't happen over minutes, it was literally seconds, and I acted on the information I had at the time. I wasn't about to take any chances with the dog that already attacked her and came back again. We are lucky the damage done wasn't more severe. When I try to explain my side, all I get back is I'm trying to justify my actions. I am also the bad guy because I told my wife I will be talking to a lawyer as I'm thinking about getting a divorce because she made it clear that she cares more for an animal than our daughter. I gave her 2 options, family and couple counseling or divorce. My daughter is asking every day when her mother will be coming home and why she won't talk to her over the phone. The questions of if she did anything wrong, and if her mother hates her have already started as well, but my wife still refuses to talk or come home just to see our daughter. All of my communications between my wife and me have gone through her mother, because my wife is refusing to answer her phone or text. I have also told her that I will be going for full custody of our daughter if I go through with the divorce, because she is making it clear that our daughter doesn't actually matter to her. Still no answer received from her, but all third parties calling me a monster for not seeing my wife's pain and going nuclear. But I can't get an answer about when I ask, what about our daughter's pain? Why isn't she here? Why is she ignoring her own daughter? Am I the idiot? Edit. I read through my post and noticed I made my wife sound emotionless about our daughter when she got attacked. That isn't fair to her as she was freaking out when she came running out of the house seeing our daughter covered in blood. She was crying and kept asking if our daughter will be okay. Her behavior only started after our daughter was cleared from the hospital. Police were called as a firearm was discharged, but I was cleared and no charges will be filed against me for ending the life of the dog, as I only did it to protect my daughter. I have cameras, and that confirmed every time I told the police. If you are interested, it was 21 seconds from the dog attacking to me shooting. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot as someone who cries when Bambi's mother dies. When I asked her what was wrong, she went off on me for shooting the dog. She asked how can I take away something that she loved. Ask her if she'd rather her beloved dog take your daughter away from her. Dog versus child, dog wins. You did what you had to do to protect her as best you could, and she is still mentally traumatized. Comment 2. I have a scar on the back right side of my neck from being attacked by a Rottweiler. I was 5. I remember the dog coming after me, and then I remember lying on my grandma's couch with a compress on my neck. I don't know why I wasn't taken to the hospital and don't know what happened to that dog. I am terrified of Rottweilers to this day. I do not blame you for shooting the dog. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife when I got the call from my wife's lawyer. She had filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and was seeking full custody of our daughter. My heart sank. The thought of losing my little girl was unbearable. I was ready to fight tooth and nail, but the thought of dragging my daughter through a custody battle made me sick to my stomach. In the midst of this chaos, my daughter's therapy sessions were bringing up more than just her fear of dogs. She kept asking about her mom, why she wasn't around, and if the divorce was her fault. It broke my heart to see her so confused and hurt. I reassured her it wasn't her fault, but kids have a way of blaming themselves for things out of their control. Then the unexpected happened. My brother-in-law showed up at my door, unannounced, and looking like he'd been through a war. He confessed that he had known about the dog's aggressive tendencies but had kept it to himself, thinking it was manageable. He was racked with guilt, knowing his silence had nearly cost his niece her life. I was furious, feeling betrayed by family, but I saw the remorse in his eyes. It was a mistake, a terrible one, but I could see he was genuinely sorry. Before I could fully process this revelation, another bombshell dropped. My wife had been in an accident. She was in the hospital, stable but unconscious. All our differences, the anger and the resentment melted away in an instant. I rushed to the hospital, my daughter in tow, desperate to see her. Sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, I felt a wave of forgiveness wash over me. I couldn't hold on to the bitterness. Life was too fragile. When she finally opened her eyes and saw both of us there, the look of relief and love was overwhelming. We were a family, broken, but still a family. In that moment, I knew I had to drop the divorce proceedings. It seemed petty now, and my daughter needed her mother. I felt weak, maybe even desperate, but I couldn't deny the bond between them. My wife, once she was able to speak, was full of apologies and regret. She had been lost in her grief and hadn't realized the impact of her absence on our daughter. We decided to start fresh, to go to family counseling together. It wasn't going to be easy, but we were willing to try for the sake of our daughter. The road to healing was going to be long and hard, but we were committed to walking it together. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!